once again in the middle of the night. When God knocks on my door, I answer. Not because I'm anything, but because He is everything. You know, I have just had someone call me because I can't see, I can't look up my books or whatever. And I had asked many people that if you bought a book from from Amazon, uh, to please write a review. Uh, it would help me so much. Well, I was thankful there was a handful of people that did, which was enough to knock out something that was written 10, 15 years ago. Uh, that somebody had lied and said they came to my house. Well, that I no longer see there because there are so many 5-star reviews for my books. And if you appreciated my book, and if God has helped you and blessed your life with it, I would appreciate you writing a review. And if you did buy a book, please send me a Gmail to consider what he says, all lowercase, one word, ConsiderWhatHesays at gmail.com. I'll tell you why, and that is because whoever has charge of supposedly to give me a quarterly report, supposedly telling me how many cells, supposedly telling me, I have not seen since the book was published, I think in 2022, I've not seen one penny. Not that the money is important, except I use the money to help others. People, they they give me uh, donations, which is wonderful, and I've been able to sometimes just as fast as it comes in, I give it out. I don't always do that, but I do that when God leads me, because there are people out there who are in trouble. I don't give it out to people that I don't know. So if you write to me and tell me what your problem is because I don't know you, I will not pay attention to it. I have had people cheat me out of $20,000 and $30,000 just by lying to me about their needs, and I cannot take that chance again. God told me do not accept anybody new. That these people, I know them, they're solid, and I know their needs, and that's God, and that's what I'm to do. I'm not here to tear anybody apart. I'm not here to uh, be angry or upset with anybody, and I'll tell you why. God has supplied all of my needs. What people do out there against me is their problem, actually. I have never known anybody to be able to hurt me in any way in the sense of attacking what God has written, what God has done. I didn't look for anything except that I would hear from other sources what happened. And it would shock me. Because if you don't believe like me, or you have a doctrine, or you have understanding as a scholar, I don't dispute that with you. I only dispute, and I can't even say dispute, I only allow God to give me a message telling me what is right. And what is right is buying and selling the gospel is never right. Teaching false doctrines and calling yourselves a prophet when you don't know what you're doing. You've never died to the flesh. And every prophetic utterance is filtered through your flesh. And so the ones that preach and teach things that, oh, God will give you the wisdom to know and you'll know what everybody's thinking, whatever. No, you won't. A psychic can claim that. ESP can claim that. Astrology, horoscope, all of that can claim that. No, you won't. You will have a certain amount of truth like the devil does, and you will bring a lot of heartache and pain on your life for touching things that you ought not to. And you'll run around and say, well, it's because of this one this happened. It's because, when really, search me, O God, and see if there be any iniquity in me. I know the Lord told me that there are people out there that pay attention to what happened to me here. And they think because it's like that, it's formed like that, that it's because I'm this or I'm that, or they don't understand. When you spend years on a deathbed, years where your body just it I am fortunate at the age of 80 to be as healthy as I am. Very blessed. I'm able to get around, do everything that I need to do everything I need to do, e- even on the internet. I am a blessed person. If you find fault with how I look, that's too bad. I'm not going to do anything about this. I am who I am. What you see is what you get. It doesn't trouble me and it doesn't bother me. But there are those that literally pay attention to the flesh, and they literally pamper themselves and think they're better or think they've done right. You know, I have to tell you from what the Lord had showed me, and I said this before, that the chart that they use to say this is a healthy weight for you, it's not true. A healthy weight for you is a weight that your body with God has determined you need to be. And your body will respond to it. I have always felt better with a little bit of weight on, physically better. Uh, I'm not saying that time might come that God might decide to do it differently because everything changes as you get older. But I'm only telling you that He tells you not to judge according to the eyes, according to what you see or what you hear, to judge righteous judgment. Because there's always somebody out there that's willing to lie on you, willing to look at you and find fault with you. And they don't even understand or realize that their belief system about you has power. And if you don't have enough of God, you'll go down with it. You will feel bad about yourself. You will feel, oh, I've done this wrong, when you never did. You see, I can't go there because my flesh died. So when they try to bombard me, it has no effect. I don't speak what I'm speaking, even now, for me. I speak what I'm speaking for the sake of others. When I tell that I have not had a penny for my book, okay, for both of my books, when I tell that, it's not to hurt even a publishing company that is self-publishing. It is print on demand. That means every book that gets sold, you who are buying and selling it, and you are taking that book and you are reselling it for a lot more money, you are cheating, you are stealing, because that was a book and you're doing it with God's book, and you think you're doing it with God's permission. I took that book from the original state where it sat on the internet for 10 years. 10 solid years. And that book, they never, it was never sold. And there's the outside of what I bought and gave away and what others bought and gave away, it was never sold. So I took and changed publishing companies. And I think that the second publishing company turned out to be a lot worse than the first one. And I don't want anybody to look at that book at the publishing company and use it. Because if they would not do what was right with me and take complete advantage of a woman who was very ill, when I wrote Hear God's Thunder, my mitral valve was regurgitating and throwing blood on my lungs. And they said in that condition I would die if I didn't have open heart surgery. And I prayed about it, and God showed me 5 doctors. And He showed me that in their field they were like kings, that they were the best that God could find for me. And it turned out to be exactly that. And it was exactly 5 doctors that assisted in that operation. And when they told me how they took my heart out and it fibrillated on the table so badly that they didn't think I was going to live. And the one doctor who I thought was a great doctor, he said, "She's a tough old bird. She's not going to die." Well, you know what? Before that operation, when they wanted to find out if my heart was strong enough in 2012, I needed an operation for my belly. I had I had given the testimony of how I labored so hard when I went down to Mexico, and those people that were with me, especially the one and the pastor with him, abused me. I'm an elderly person, and they abused me by allowing me to work so hard. And then when I tried to tell the pastor that I worked so hard, he said, you've said I in your testimony, and that's all you, and you're wrong, and you owe this man who abused me. I'm telling you, this was a novice, and he abused me by making me work outside all day long. I kept up with him. I was 67 years old and he was 47, and I worked right alongside of him, and I could keep up with him. But it took a toll on my belly. My belly began to swell and my intestines began to grow together, and no one knew it. I became very ill and had no idea why. I would go into church and I would dance before the Lord. I didn't care who saw me or didn't see me. I wasn't dancing for them. I just couldn't help the joy I had. And as the Spirit of God came down on me, I began to laugh. And I stopped and said, "Why am I laughing, Lord?" And the Lord said, "Because you should be dead, and here you are dancing with me." The problem with the bowels, where they had to cut out 8 inches of my bowels, I got rushed to the hospital, and they made a misdiagnosis of it. They thought they didn't get all of my ovaries. They could see it falling out, but uh, in the town that I was in was supposed to be one of the best hospitals. The emergency room made a tragic mistake, and they sent me to a gynecologist when I should have been with an intestinal specialist. And the gynecologist, because when he got in there, he found out I didn't have anything gynecological. It was all bowels. And he was very angry that that happened to him. And I'm sorry for that. And I don't blame him. But because of that, he refused to see me. He did not want to have anything to do with me. And I almost died for 4 months. I had laid there without pain medication. I had so many problems physically. And the one doctor, when he found me, He said to me, because I told him the home care nurse accused me of mixing drugs. I wasn't even taking. I took ibuprofen and whatever they told me, however, to use it. And she called him up and told him, if you give her any pain medication, I'll have your hide. She was every day, they had a sponge vac, and that vacuum would seal what wouldn't close. And my scar in my belly is about this big. My wound was at least this big, and it was at least this deep. And and I didn't know it until the doctor told me. So when they rushed me to the hospital, and I was definitely dying, where the doctors had no idea I was going to live, and this was in 2012, after working so hard in a ministry that was so cruel to me. So what I did was I wound up where just before they took the operation, they took a test. They knew that I had had a heart attack. I don't know, I can't remember. I think it was 2005, I'm not sure. And the heart attack should have shown the damage. And when they found out there was no trace of damage during that operation at that time, they were studying my heart for 5 days. The nurses could not get over it because there was 5 doctors every day. They said they watch your heart every day because they knew they were looking at a brand new heart. It was not a 67-year-old heart that had been through a heart attack. They knew there was no trace of damage or anything. But you see, the uh, the nurse even who came in and complained about them watching my heart, she had taken her stethoscope to take my my uh, my blood pressure, and she put it here on my arm. And when she touched it, she jumped back like that. And I mean, she just the chair just flew back. And I looked at her and I said, "What's wrong?" And she was just shaking. She said, "I never in my life have ever felt a heart beat so powerfully." God was showing her why they were studying my heart. So, anyway, that was 67. I was 67. Well, when I had open heart surgery, I was 75. 75 people don't recuperate so easily. And anyway, when they rushed me to the hospital from taking care of me at home, accidentally there was another nurse that intervened. And she came in. I don't know why the other one was replaced that day, but she found I was dying. And she rushed me to the hospital. And the doctor says, I'm blood transfusion anemic. And he said he really didn't expect me to live. And I said that they had me on an amiodarone drip because they say that your heart, after the anesthesia, which I had reactions to anesthesia even because I had so many allergies, and the anesthesia caused my heart to go flip out. And so I went, when the heart doctor came, I said to him, "Please, I won't take any pain medication because I've been accused of being a drug addict." And he said to me, "Lady, you don't understand. If you don't take those drugs, once the pain gets so bad, it'll never go away. So you have to take it. You have a hole in your belly the size of a gunshot wound to the belly. That's how big it is." I didn't even know that I was so ill. I had no idea. So when I came home, I told you, the home care people went to the hospital and they thought I would sue them because that woman did a bad job. She did something bad enough to kill me. And so when she came out, she couldn't even look at me. She just bowed her head. And she said, if you want another home care, company, we'll send it to you. And I says, please, please don't. All of you women have been so kind to me. You've been so sweet and took excellent care of me, except for that one nurse. And I don't hold anything against her. I'm not angry with her, and I have nothing in my heart against her. And she looked up at me and she says, unfortunately, we're a company and we have to deal with her. I says, well, that's between you, her, and God. But before God, she's forgiven. These people, she says to me, I just knew you were going to do that. Nobody could feel the power and presence of God. And they knew. She said, I just knew that you were going to be like that. People who were cruel to me thought I was faking, thought I was trying to get back into the hospital, and when I kept getting rushed to the hospital by ambulance. And they would send me back home and say, we're not giving you nothing. Your doctor gave orders. You get nothing because of this one home care woman. So for 4 solid days with a wound that size, I screamed in agony out of pain. I was out of my head with pain. When they would come, the spongeback people would come, and they would wheel me there on a gurney, a bed. I could not even sit up in a wheelchair. I was that ill. And I could see them looking down into my belly. And they would say, wow, look at how bad it is. Look, do you see it swirling down in there? It's literally swirling. But they did nothing about it. But the Lord saw to it that I got a surgeon that defied the doctor's orders that had operated on me, because he told everybody, don't you touch her, because I'll sue you. I did a work in her. She needs to come here. And those doctors on this other end knew I could not make the trip in the truck. And the hospital says, real rotten to me, I said, can't you take me by ambulance? She said, we don't do that. All those people were standing in that room ashamed of how they treated me when I almost died. And the wonderful thing about forgiveness is you don't even think. All you see when you have Jesus in your heart, all you see, he loves them. He doesn't want them hurt. He doesn't want them to pay. That's all you see. You don't see, oh, they did this to me, they did that to me. They should pay, they should. All I saw was people who had lives, who had families, that had to make a living. And that if this counted against them, they could lose their job. There's so many things that could have happened to them. And I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I'm not crying. My eyes are watering because it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't hurt anybody. And they sent me home. And they sent me to one doctor where my scar was, it was for the first time that scar in my belly was troubling me. It never troubled me before. It was really amazing to me because even the zipper from open heart surgery never hurt. The scar never hurt. It was what was inside that hurt. And when the scar started bothering me, she took a cream, and this is what amazed me. She took a clear liquid cream and put it right on that scar, and that scar, I'm telling you, was completely healed by the time I left the office. That tells me they have things that can really cure you, and they don't use them. I was shocked. I told those people, just give me a good nurse. I'll be fine. Let her take care of me the way she was supposed to be. 'Cause you see, the other one left a big sponge in me, and it was infecting that big hole. And so the hole could not close. And I've told the testimony before about how after the doctor had seen, my husband was there. The surgeon that I was sent to said, I can't operate on you. Look at this email I got from this doctor and how he says I can go to jail for operating on you. And my husband, oh my goodness, he stood up and he said, that man was so cruel to her. And he began to tell him what that doctor did to me and how that doctor wouldn't even see me after the operation. What right did he have to dare to do that? And immediately the surgeon is looking at him, and he takes that Gmail and he rips it. And he put his arms around me and said, I'm going to operate on you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And then he went and hugged my husband. And he said, you are her mouthpiece. You are her protector. You are the reason she's going to live. Mm-hmm. My precious husband. He says, you spoke up, and if you would not have told me the truth, now I know I have permission to be able to operate. That doctor, what he did is after the operation, I could see the skin was open like this big, my skin. But I could see the inside, my insides were sealed like that. Where they were wide open like this, like this, they were sealed together from the sponge vac. And I'm laying there and I'm going, oh God, it's being sealed together. I'm going to be healed. Thank you, Lord. And at that exact second, he comes walking through the room. And he did have big hands. And he just went up to me and opened up that wound and put his hand up to his wrist in my belly. Right in front of me. And I'm looking, God, that's my insides. Why am I not fainting? and he, and he stuck his hand in there and it went inside my belly and he went like this. And he pulled out 2 sponges. Maybe it was one, I don't know. Yeah, it was 1 sponge. And it was about this long, and it was about that thick. And he almost cried. He didn't even talk to me or nothing. He just said, I told my nurses, you put 2 in, you pulled 2 out. Hey, the Lord just used that man to save my life again. So they sealed it back up, of course. And in 4 months that I had suffered, it took a couple of weeks for me to be completely healed. But during the meantime, when I went into another surgery for open heart surgery, that's when I had had so many surgeries, I think I just developed allergies to anesthesia, to all kinds of pain medication. I couldn't take it. At one point, I remember I was comatose, and I could remember that I could see somebody coming towards me. I didn't know who it was, and I could hear them calling my name, and they were slapping me. It's, it was like a dream, and they're slapping me. And I woke up, and the nurse was slapping me as hard as she could in the face. Marion, wake up. Marion, wake up. Oh, my goodness. And being in that bed after going through so many things that I went through, after open heart surgery, I began to exercise my legs immediately. I began to do leg lifts in bed with my, I know of people who couldn't even lift their head after uh, surgery with their heart and died of a brain bleed because they lifted their head. If you're ever in surgery, don't lift your head. Don't lift your head up like this. Just keep it back. I didn't know this. And I'm lifting up my head and I'm lifting up my legs and I'm exercising my arms. I mean, this is immediately after open heart surgery. Because I knew that if I didn't get this body moving, I would have to really struggle to, because I've been there. I would have to really struggle to move around. So when I did all that, they had one guy come down the hall, and he was so used to forcing people to use the walker, forcing them to move their legs, forcing them. But you see me, he didn't have to. I could get on that walker by myself, and he got mad. He says, "You can't do that. I have to do it." I said, "Look, I can do it by myself." He says, "Well, you need to walk that far." I said, "Okay." And I walked that far and back. And he said, "Everybody here is watching you." He says, "Don't you care of what they think of you?" And I looked at him and I said, "No. If I'm physically able to walk, I'm going to do it." Because they all watched him all the time. He was their hero. He was the one that got them all walking. Well, see, my hero was Jesus Christ, and he got me walking. So, anyway, of course, he changed his attitude, and the nurses changed their attitude when they saw what I could do after open heart surgery. Only God could do those things. I'm not superhuman. When you have Jesus Christ inside your mind and your body, in his fullness, you never say to somebody, "Well, I think this is the way things should go," or "I believe that this is how it is," or uh, you never do that. What you do is the Lord revealed to me. The Lord told, because you know that it's God that gave you that information and that understanding. It never occurs to you to take credit for it. So then you sit there and you say, "Well, I have a message today," and it pours out because it's Him. My own opinion doesn't even enter into it because I have none. I don't sit down and talk about anybody or anything. And I don't talk to anybody personal, no matter what anybody thinks, no matter how they feel or whatever they're going through. There are so many people in my life that I talk to even now. When I decided that I was going to take some time and separate from everybody, I thought that I was going to go for a long time like that. It didn't last very long because whatever I was connected to was broken, and I was right back where I always was. So therefore, I didn't need any months. I didn't need to be alone with God for a lot of things. I was already alone with God. And so I was right back to the way I was. So for people that they separate and they go with God, and it takes them a long time, That's because whatever is in them, they need to get right. Some people have to have perfect peace. And if you can't come back into a communication with perfection of peace with it, something's wrong. You've got to get that right with God. So if you separate from me, okay, that's fine. If you separate for 2 weeks, 10 weeks, 2 years, that's fine. I'm never going to cross over and say, because I love you and want to be with you, I'm never going to cross over that line and call you or go to you. And I'm not talking about 5 people, 10 people. I'm talking about anybody that God has done this with. I'm not going to call you. And I'll tell you why, because I will not interfere with what God is doing with you. That's between you and Him. I'm not touching it. I just go back to my original. To my original of God before I've ever met anybody or talked to anybody. That original is where I went for 40 years by myself. I'm very fortunate. There were people that said that they were going to get closer to God, and they are. They're doing their homework. But they call me every day to make sure that my husband is okay. They call me every day to see if I need them, because at a moment's notice they'll drop everything and run and help me. Because they know there are certain things that we can't do. And I'm very fortunate. They're doing the things that my daughter would have done. She's the only person in my life that would have helped take care of me as an elderly person. So I'm very grateful. He sends whoever He wants. We can't choose it. It's God's decision. So I didn't ask anybody. I told you before, I tell everybody, I don't need you. I really don't need you. But if I do have a need, God always sends somebody. And if I don't have that need fulfilled, it's because I don't really need it. It's because it's going to be everything God wants without it. So I fully accept Him any direction or any way He wants to go. Because I know it's Him. Because I took every thought captive. I took every feeling, every emotion, every memory captive to Christ. So I can function on a 24/7 basis with Him. And that's the only way you will find it. And some of you, you have you have a lot that you depend upon in the flesh. Me, I had nothing. I had no mind. I had no money. I had nothing. Oh, was I fortunate? Because that really laid everything upon Him. That made hearing His voice so easy. When you have everybody around you that hates your guts, and you have everybody in your family lying on you, cheating on you, and hating your guts, talking about you. Oh, they don't think they're doing it. They don't think they're doing one thing wrong. They're a quote and unquote Christians, and they have a right. But when you're in that condition and you feel all of that in the air because you're anointed to feel it, you are anointed to overcome it. Not everybody feels that. Not everybody sees that. But what God gave me as a gift, I saw it and felt it, and boy, I had to plow through it. And it was very painful. But never, never did I hate. And when I got tempted in any form to hold something against someone, I had to let it go. Just like you do. Justice is not revenge. Justice is where God comes and does what he wants to do, and it has nothing to do with you. Revenge is where you plot and plan it. Revenge is where you're looking at that person and focusing on it, and you're working hard to change it. And this is why I really don't like to hear people say, "Well, get your popcorn and watch." Watch what? Well, Bible says to rejoice when righteousness comes to the top. To rejoice. And I can understand that. I wouldn't do it, but I can understand it. I can understand them having joy when they see, when they see people answer for what they've done. And I mean people who have done some really horrific things. I didn't have joy that people go into the grave, but I did have joy. Take, for instance, Bundy, how he slaughtered those precious girls. I wasn't happy that he was going to die. I was happy he was going to be stopped. That's the difference. I didn't enjoy watching a man die. I could never do that. But I did have joy that he couldn't kill anybody else. And that's the difference, is having joy in knowing that no more babies are going to be given mastectomies at the age of 5 and 9 years old. That no more children are going to have hormones pumped into them and gender change. That no more atrocities like that. You know, if you take a good look in Romans about what is unnatural, you don't change the body that God created in all of his glory to make it what you think it should be. Many of those cases, they say, well, why did God make me this way? I was born this way. God didn't make you that way. Somewhere along in the generations, somebody was in that sin. And if you look at that Bible, God himself cursed those generations. And God himself is the only one that can break that generational curse. And you and you and you can entreat God all you want to break those generational curses. And I'm telling you, it's up only to him if he will do it. He knows if you're in the right pew when you ask him. And I've said it before. When you call on God, the Father, he says, so join your time here with fear. Because when you call on him to break something that is unnatural, a curse on someone, and you are a pastor, and you are doing unnatural acts in your own bedroom, saying that your bedroom is undefiled, you just opened a door to God the Father to see plainly your heart. Just right there before him. And you're asking him to break this curse as though you've got something that they don't have. When God sees immediately what you've done. And you wonder why that one doesn't get any help. And neither do you. There are coming a time, and I'm going to put this on another video,